Terra Nil.
Love Terra Nil.
Yeah, which is, I think it's a really good example of how you can use the mechanics of video games to make climate action feel very satisfying, because Terra Nil, if you're not familiar with it, you basically start with a blighted landscape. There's no water, there are no trees, there's no nothing. And then you are essentially, it's a bit of a strategy game, but you're trying to rebuild, reforest, and then repopulate the environment with animals. And then you only can succeed at the level once you have extracted all of the machinery and stuff you've used to do that. So you really are just trying to set up the environment, restore it to the way it used to be, and then remove all human trace from it, and then you've succeeded. And it is a really, it's really beautiful and also just really satisfying, and there's something so gratifying as a player to go from a barren landscape to, you know, this like beautifully reforested area that has deer and fish and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I think that is something that is so unique to games. You couldn't really, I mean, you could make a movie where you just see people reforest an area, but there is something so special and so specific about you being the one that does it. And I just loved also that you have to remove all trace of like technology. At the end, I thought that was like such a cool little like cherry on top, because it also made me think as a player, like, right, it's not just about living in concert with nature, it's also respecting it and not feeling like we have to have our footprint every single place that we go. So it made me think and reflect more than other mediums that I engaged with that had climate stories for that reason.
You guys just reminded me of another of my favorite ones where it was I ran like a competition for ideas when I was at Unity. We had donor advised fund money, and so we would periodically run competitions for new ideas. And mine was about how to best use citizen science, so people going out and like getting data, how to best use games as the way that you can actually gather data that is then fed back into the scientific community. And there were, I mean, it was incredible. We left it out and the prize wasn't like that big, so clearly people had already been thinking about it and they were really motivated, and we had over like 50 legitimate games, like actually like in, you know, like really well thought out ideas that all had this way of getting people to go out and collect data in the real world to feed it back into the game for whatever the various prizes, whatever those, you know, rewards were, which would then help researchers out in the real world. And one of my favorites was one that was looking at endangered species counts in Australia. I think it was just so beautiful. And so things like that where, I mean, you mentioned it, where we're like stitching together our digital selves and our real world selves in these ways is just one of the most powerful things about games.
I'm such a fan of citizen science. I'm just going to plug one other example of citizen science while we're here, which is Borderlands 3, actually. They had Borderlands Science. They had a mini game, which was just like a Tetris-style type, you know, puzzle game. But in the back end, what it was actually doing was helping map the human gut microbiome. And they had partnered with McGill University in Canada and this other organization called Massive Multiplayer Online Science. And they were able to like get all this data this way, just with people playing this mini puzzle game. And so I definitely want to pick your brain later on that to see how can we use citizen science.